Hi everyone, welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is the 10th of February 2025, just letting Wendy in. So welcome. My name is Dave Ellery. I'm one half of Freedom Thinking. The other half is putting Lucia to sleep. Keep saying that. Every time I go to say it, I think, don't say it, and then I say it. It just sounds terrible, doesn't it? Putting Lucia to bed. I went. She's putting Lucia to bed. She's literally just gone. I know that because it's just gone quiet. She's bonkers tonight. She's bonkers. She's running around stark naked, playing with her puppets, and she's fun. She's fun. So yeah, welcome everyone. Good time you went. Yeah, this is a via donation event. We do it as pretty much every Monday as best we can. We do it every Monday. Sometimes we have to move it if we have commitments and whatnot, but usually it's on a Monday night, and we do it via donation. And we do it via donation to make it accessible to everybody and also keep us with a bit of an income as well. Yeah, so any donations are greatly received. You can do that via PayPal at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. If you want to get in touch with us, we do personal one-to-one work, myself and Jenny, or just me, or just Jenny. We do personal one-to-one work. Just going to mute. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk, and also our website, which in all honesty really needs updating, is www.freedomthinking.co.uk. Oh, and if you're watching on YouTube, here we go. Just I'll be finished in a second. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and follow, please. And if you wish to make a donation via PayPal, I'll put the link in the description. Well, it will be a link because I'm crap at links. It'll just tell you how to do it in the description. And yeah, and likewise, if you want to make a bank transfer, get in touch with us and we can send you our bank details. I think Wendy, is that it? Have I covered it all? I think I've covered it.
I think you have, Dave, as your main support system. I believe you have covered it all administratively, and I appreciate your contributions.
Thank you, love. Thanks, Wendy. All right. I've got something I want to talk about. Something that's exciting me right now. I've fallen in love with stone circles. I've fallen in love with sacred sites. I don't know why. I'm just feeling the real pull. I like dowsing. I douse. I got taught dowsing when I was at college. A couple of old mechanics. A couple of fellas used to teach mechanization. I went to my school college near Preston. And a couple of old boys who used to teach mechanization and talk like proper farmers, like couldn't understand a word they were saying. These couple of tubby old lads, always laughing, really good crack. More like the students than the students. Just a right good pair of old boys. One day they stood us in Bungalow Field and we had to find this broken drain. And we're like, how the hell are we supposed to find a drain in all this massive field? He went, you'll find it. And he gave us a couple of arc welding rods and he said, bend them here and bend the other one here. Hold them in your hand like that. Stand in a line. Right, walk across the field. Don't look at anybody. Just watch your rods. And when they cross, stop. So we all 16 of us lined up in this row. All 16 of us walked across this field, just like, what the hell are we doing? Most of us were stoned. It was like, it's all right, let's just give it a go. My rods crossed. I stopped. I looked either side of me and other people had stopped. Their rods were crossed. Two fellas didn't stop. Their rods did not cross. So out of 16 of us, 14 of us apparently could dowse. And we dug down and we found a broken ceramic pipe. That was why Bungalow Field wasn't draining. We replaced the pipe and we covered it back over, but I never forgot that. I was astounded that dowsing actually worked. I don't know how it works, but it worked. Later on, after I had my experience and my first experience where I got into a fight and then I left my body and I went into this next space and I met an entity called Lucy who made herself very, very apparent. I've spoken about her before. A girlfriend at the time, she got in touch with a lady who does angel readings. And I went and spoke to her because I didn't have anybody I could speak to regarding angels or anything like that and other dimensional beings. And she showed me, she got out some dowsing rods and she dowsed. And this, some people have seen me douse people. She showed me how to douse people. That got my attention as well. And then a wee while ago, my friend said, I think my straw bale house is built on a ley line. I said, oh, I've got some dowsing rods. We could see if we could find it if you want. Now, if I'm searching for water, I walk down towards the house. If I find water, my rods cross. It's just what it does. I'd never had it before where walking along, suddenly they both pointed in the same direction. Now I just walked down towards the house, got about level with the house and turned, and they pointed in the same direction. They pointed right at a church. This earth energy line pointed right at the local church. And that really got my attention. And since then, I've been and doused a lot of the stone circles in the Lake District. There's more stone circles, I think, in the Lake District than any other part of Great Britain. We've got loads of stone circles. And I've become really, really interested in earth energy lines and why they seemed. Oh, sorry, Wend. What is a stone circle? A stone circle is a sacred site from like a few thousand years ago. They they are built on earth energy lines. Most of them are built where an earth energy line crosses another earth energy line. Now you can pick these up with your dowsing rods. People can dowse them. You can dowse them. You lot could probably dowse them. And I'm trying to figure out what it is that they use them for. Now, the more I've spent time in them and the more I've sat quietly, the more I feel like they're used for connection, for higher spiritual awareness, for communication, for healing, and ceremonial practices. But I believe the ceremonies are purely just to raise the level of consciousness of the participants and possibly for the local surrounding area. The reason why I'm saying all this is because I looked out on our kitchen window. My apologies, our kitchen window. This would be, I don't know, 3 months ago, and I saw two stones in a field. I thought, I've never noticed those two stones. I'll have a wander over and have a look. And I took my dowsing rods, and as I walked up to them, I got my rods out, and as I walked up, they crossed. They pointed between these two stones. I tracked it back. There's a mound in the field that I've always looked at. It's a man-made mound. This line went right through this man-made mound. I tracked it back further onto the fell land next to our house. And I found that where I followed this line, there's a pointy rock with the wall built over the top of it. And the line runs right on top of the point of this rock, almost like it's completely placed there on purpose. I started to get really excited to know that I don't have to go very far to find an earth energy line. There's one 30 seconds walk from my front door up the fell side. And when I stopped looking at this pointy rock, I looked around and can't help but notice there's rocks everywhere, big rocks all in a pile. And then when I looked around the rest of the walls, I could see two standing stones built into the walls. The walls have been built round them and over them. I climbed these rocks as a kid. I found a stone circle 30 seconds walk from my house. It's knackered. It's some farmer or somebody's pulled it all down and chucked all the rocks in a pile. But there's still the remnants of it. And I found a stone circle. And when I douse it, I can find the outline of it. I've looked at that view for 45 years. 45 years, I have looked out every single morning. I've got up, I've walked over to that kitchen window first thing in the morning. I look out. What's the weather doing? What's it looking like on the fells? Can you see red screes? Can you see the Langdale pikes? I've looked out of that view. I thought I knew it. I thought I knew everything that I needed to know. And then one day I find the remains of a stone circle right outside my window. We think we know something. We think we know our environment, our local area. We think we know ourselves. We think we know people. And then one day you notice something else about yourself. And one day you notice something else about people, other people. Perhaps it's a family member. And one day you notice something else about your surroundings that you thought you knew. My whole, this whole area has changed for me now. There's evidence, as I douse it, of people in my area going back far, about 4,000 years minimum, working in this area, working the stones in this area. Going back, if my dowsing is accurate, about 4,000 years. Might not be accurate. But the whole area has come alive again. Almost like when it was when I was a child and I used to go and play on the rocks. Suddenly this area has become a playground again, and I'm finding it fascinating to spend the time in this little stone circle. But it just it shows me how much we can think we know something. And how when you think you know something, it appears stale. But it was always there. This beautiful thing that I've found now that I've spoken to other stone circle enthusiasts in the area, and they want to come and inspect it and have a look and give me their ideas, people who've spent a lot of time in stone circles. But it was always there. I just couldn't see it. This magical time time thing was always there. Those stones I just thought were rocks. Now I look, they are perfect standing stones stood one next to each other. Now I look through the eyes of greater awareness, I can see what they were and I can see what was built. It was always there. I just couldn't see it. It's like ourself. the timeless megalith that is our true self is always there, just waiting to be discovered. That magical aspect of life, that is the creative aspect of life, that is the creator, that is the spirit, that is the magnificent livingness of life, is waiting to be discovered. It's always been there. We just can't always see it. It blows my mind. Like, I don't know why, but I'm feeling a real draw to these areas. I'm feeling really compelled to go and spend time in these areas and sit quietly and listen. It was a stone circle, well, it's more of a cairn really, up in Galloway in Scotland, just over the border. And it's called Cairn Holy. And I once went up there. The first time I ever went up there, I met a man who was studying. His name was Joseph. And this would be, I don't know, 25 years ago. I went up there with my ex-wife, Rach, when we were together. Met this man called Joseph, a very eccentric man, studying this stone circle thing. And we got chatting to him, and he said, I came here 10 years ago, he said, at that point. He said, and I walked up to this, he said, and I had this mind-blowing experience. He said, and I've been trying to figure it out ever since. Nice to meet you. Good luck, best of luck with your endeavors. With that, we left. 10 years later, 15 years later, me, my family, was Jen with me? I think, yeah, Jen must have been with me. Yes, she was with me. So it was within the last 9 years. We went there, and Joseph was there. I said, Joseph. He said, oh, hi. I said, yeah, he's an American fella. He moved over to the UK after stumbling across this place. I said, oh, I said, you won't remember me. I said, you met me 10 years ago. He said, oh, he said, I meet a lot of people here. He said, I haven't missed a single day, though, since you met me. I've been here every single day. And he had his pens pushed into the ground. He had his pens pushed into the ground, marking out the shadows cast by the sun. And these kids were running around and kicked his pencils out of the ground, his pens out of the ground. And he went, oh, oh, okay, don't worry. I can get that measurement next year. It's like, wow, fair play, buddy. My mum said to him, how long do you think it's been here? And Joseph said, well, I know it was here about 20 something years ago. He said, I know that because I saw it. He said, and I've also seen a photograph of it during the Second World War. He said, so I'm pretty sure it was here then. Other than that, I don't know. And then Mum said, what do you think it is? And Joseph said, I don't know. What do you think it is? What do you think? And Mum was like, well, I don't know. And Joseph said, well, just watch. He said, if you look, you will learn something. I remember thinking to myself, I've come across one of the greatest scientists ever. doesn't think he knows anything. His mind's open. He's interested. He's fascinated. He's following his passion. His passion was this one particular cairn holy. I'd love to go and dowse it. I'd love to dowse it with Joseph and see what we found. See if we can find there is actually an earth energy line there, and maybe there's a cross or something like that. But I remember him saying, if you look long enough, it will teach you something. He said it took me 2 years before I even noticed there's a mound on that hill over there, look, to the east. He said, and look over there, exactly the same, to the west. There's these mounds. He said, I've walked up to them. They're piles of stones. He said, it took me 2 years before I saw that. But they were always there. They never went anywhere. They weren't hiding from him. He just couldn't see it until he could see it. But like he said, if we look, if we point our consciousness in that particular direction, we will learn something. We will notice something. And that's what this really is an invitation about. This is an invitation to notice the megalith that hides behind our reality. That magnificent thing that never went anywhere was always present. But maybe we just couldn't see it. I just wanted to share that because it came to me today. I spent 45 years looking out of a window and thought I knew something, only to discover it was something else. It makes me wonder, what else have I missed? What else will I notice if I open myself up to seeing more? So yeah, I just wanted to share that with everyone. Chat. Wind, wonderful. I'd love to. Love. Medicine wheels, wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting. That has been something that has been done globally in one way or another. It's exciting because it's exciting for me anyway. I want to help people, and I've had some insight come to me about healing, the healing of people through earth energy lines, and I'm going to put them to practice before I start speaking about them. I want to know what I'm talking about a bit more before I start speaking too much about them. But yeah, I've had some ideas, and it's interesting because they come as like flashes of freaking hell. That makes sense. It's flashes of knowledge. The knowledge must always have been there. I just couldn't see it. And I'm hoping that over time this will just unravel itself more. But yeah, I'd like to open it up to you lot. I'd love to know what you lot would like to bring to tonight's community group that we could explore. Or we can have a think about and together have a look at something long enough. It may teach us something.
when you say stone circle, Dave, do you mean I've not like I've Googled it there.
Yeah.
Is it oh, apologies, I ain't got my camera on. I'm eating a trifle. Um, is it like just is it the energy? Like, is that the like? Do you get like a particular energy from a stone circle, like yourself, or does it come from the sticks?
Right. Now we're going into stone circles. Let's go there. Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
do it.
let's go into dowsing a little bit. Well, the rods are just an extension of ourselves, but they will make the invisible visible. That's the way I describe it. So my rods are articulated. They're in a metal sheath, and then you can spin them around in the metal sheath because they just swing around inside this metal sheath. So I'm not doing that. I'm just holding it, and then they swing around as and when they so choose, or perhaps as and when I so choose. I don't know. It's not my conscious thinking that's doing it. If it is, it's some deeper level awareness that seems to know more than my intellect knows, my ego knows. Um, yeah, and you can set your intention for whatever it be. So I choose an earth energy line. Otherwise, if I just let it wander, it'll just pick up all kinds of things or nothing. So I set my intention clearly of what I'm looking for. And yeah, if you douse a stone circle, what I've noticed is there's a stone circle called Long Meg. It's in North Cumbria. Big stone circle, massive stone circle. Some of these stones are actually, according to my rods, they're about a foot out of place, which is something nothing. It's not the end of the world. But the fact that they're out of place suggests it's not the stones creating the energy. The energy line already lies there. The stones make the invisible visible. But studies have shown that you can change the frequency of, this is why I believe they're for healing or for doing all kinds of things with. You can even use them, I believe, for pretty nefarious reasons if you so wish. I'm not about to judge. I don't know enough about um, Masons, but Masonic lodges are built on ley lines, built on earth energy lines. So are churches. But the churches, the Christian churches, were generally where they kicked the pagans off their sites and built the churches on the pagan sites. So the pagans had found this natural phenomena, and then the churches were built on top of when they kicked the pagans off, got rid of all the pagans, called them all witches or whatever, and did away with them. As our good old Christian tradition seems to do. Let's get rid of people and replace them with ourselves. Um, Yeah, so from my observations, the stone circles are making the invisible visible. They're also redirecting the earth energy. Rocks can redirect the earth energy, but also if you play something like the healing frequency, say 25, it's 528, I think is one healing frequency, hertz. If you were to play that on top of a standing stone from that point onwards, downstream of it, although it isn't flowing in one direction, it's flowing in many directions, flowing in both directions at the same time. It's a bit quantumy. Um, you can change the frequency of the energy line to the healing frequency. So my thinking is that they spent time getting themselves into higher states of being because consciousness affects the surrounding environment. It affects the earth energy lines. You dance, you sing in the earth energy line from a higher state of being, more people there, you will concentrate and everything will become amplified at that point because of the saturation of the earth energy line, which is a powerful force changing its vibration to the same state as the people. Then you can reach saturation point, whereby which higher states of consciousness have access to higher dimensional information, higher dimensional potentials. This is my theory. Um, so yeah, but they're not random like on um, Castlereagh Stone Circle in the Lake District. There's a plaque saying you can clearly see why they built this stone circle here. It's because of the wonderful vista. You've got Skiddaw, you've got Blencathra, you've got all the fells, you've got Derwentwater, you've got all the fells to the western lakes, you've got all the fells of the east. And it is in a spectacular place. But what the sign doesn't take into account is the fact that there are 8 ley lines that cross at that point. They haven't built it there because of the beautiful vista and what a beautiful place to hold a ceremony. It's a functional thing, and it's built because there are big ass ley lines crossing at that point. And the largest one, there is an enormous stone where it enters, hits an enormous stone as it enters into the stone circle. But I believe that human consciousness interacts with these places, what we call a ceremony, and we go, oh, it was just a ceremony, oh, it was just some kind of religious thing, oh, it was some kind of belief thing. No, I think those people truly knew far deeper than what we do about the nature of consciousness, about the nature of spirit, about the nature of themselves, about the nature of nature. They were of, in my mind, of far higher dimensional mind than we are currently at the moment as a species. I think they had access to the knowledge about the earth energy lines and how human consciousness interacts with it. In Aborigines, they call them song lines. In China, they call them dragon lines or serpent lines. So yeah, it's something I'm just looking into, and how we human beings can remember how to use them and hopefully bring around benefit into this world. As far as I can tell, they're neutral. They will amplify anything. They will amplify the healing frequency. They would amplify suffering. It's interesting that the Christians and the conquistadors as well also buggers for this. They in South America they built pyramids. You know, the pyramids that they have in South America with flat top pyramids. They're built on earth energy lines, and the first thing that the conquistadors did was they went on top of these pyramids and they did human sacrifice on them. And the theory is it's because the suffering goes into the earth energy line and helps to saturate the environment, the local area, with low frequency. Yeah, so I think the more and more, the way of the future is going to be frequency based. It's going to be understanding frequency. If you understand frequency, you understand the nature of reality. Everything is made of frequency. Atoms are frequency at different vibratory states. That's what matter is. It's frequency vibrating at different frequency states. That's what a thought is. It's a different vibration. That's why every single vibration feels different. Each thought has its own feeling state because you're feeling the vibration of the creation. So I think the medicine of the future is frequency. We've had that for a lot of time. Homeopathy is frequency medicine effectively. The Celts knew about the frequency of different plants. So yeah, it's all frequency. It's all to do with frequency. And one of the things Sid Banks said was raise your level of consciousness. That's what you're aiming to do. You're aiming to raise your level of consciousness through listening. As we raise our level of consciousness, another way to describe that is to raise the frequency of our being. As we raise the frequency of our being, we start to expand. We start to see with bigger eyes. We start to become aware of more. Suddenly, what was esoteric and nonsense and bullshit suddenly takes on a life of potential. Wow, okay. Perhaps. Suddenly, the notion and the possibility that what we've been told throughout scripture may have some accuracy to it. Perhaps there is more to life than you just eat, go to work, sleep, and then die. perhaps that's just not it at all. Perhaps life is actually something far more magnificent. Yeah. Yeah, stone circles, Dan. When we do that retreat at Habergill Centre, I'll take you to a stone circle.
Cool. Reason why I asked, right, is because my granddad lives in North Yorkshire Moors. It's in a little village just in the middle of nowhere. Um, and I don't know why, but I can always remember there was this, and it's not a stone circle, but it's like you go. I think you walk through like 7 fields or something, like 7 farmers' fields, and then you get down to a river, um, River Swale, I think it is, and
All
then
right.
yeah, and I can always remember when I was a kid, there was just this massive flat like stone, and every time we used to go and visit, we always used to make a point of standing on it or like putting your hands on it. Um, and I can always remember that. It's just always that like as soon as you say, "Oh, let's go to the river," we'll always go there. There's always this one big flat like stone, but when I say it's big, it's like the size of like a I don't know. The circumference would be like the size of a car, like because it was that big and it was like that into the grounds, but it just had like an energy about it. And every time we always used to go down to the river, like I can always remember like either standing on it, touching it, sitting on it. But I'm sure there's a picture of me on it somewhere. I could just remember. But the reason why I asked is because it's just the energy about it is like because it's like the stones in the earth. I didn't know whether if it was like um like Earth's energy coming through or
Yeah,
something.
I'm sure. Same thing, Dan. Same thing. I mean, a lot of the time, all you see is a singular standing stone. And then go a few miles, you find another singular standing stone. They don't look like they have anything to do with one another, but they're actually interacting with one another, like almost like the highway of energy. So yeah, what you may have found may absolutely have been placed there on purpose. Maybe it's fallen, or maybe it was placed flat. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea, mate. But I think, I was speaking to somebody today and who have asked to come and help me with this stone circle outside our house. And she said, we're all best guessing it, Dave. I'm like, yeah, totally agree. I said, but the more of us that can study it and see if we come up with the same results, now we're starting to do blind tests. I said, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in doing some blind tests and getting to seeing what we come up with. That's how we figure things out together. So yeah. Hi, Sam. All right. Sounds like me and the salt air and the sea crashing against the rocks. I have to draw deep, deep breaths when they're, yeah, nice, love. Sounds like looking to Jesus being easy. Sounds like looking to Jesus.
I just sent that to you, just saying that you had said, you know, esoteric and
Yeah,
yeah, you had just said something and I said, yeah, some things seem very, you know, to some people aren't like, oh yeah, okay, that's great. You find things at the stones, you know, and but if you open the aperture a little bit. So that was just my
nice. Thanks, mate.
suggestion that opening the aperture is available lots of different directions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Wind. Ange.
Right, that's all. Yeah, just a quote that Sid Banks in The Missing Link said, and it was, "You must see in the singular if you want to find the truth."
That's right.
Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah. I'll give you my interpretation of it. Um, There's one truth. Let's go back to the analogy of the ocean. You have this massive ocean with infinite waves coming and going. Some reach the shore, some don't. But those that reach the shore crash onto the shore only to fall back into the water as water. It's the realization of the singularity of life. It's the realization of the source of life. It's the realization of the source of reality. It's the realization of the source of experience. All experience, all reality, all life, all of everything is born of energy, the singleness, the singularity of life. Whatever energy is, the source, a love that is unspeakable, a space that is unspeakable. No words can possibly touch it. But that space is the singular. That space is life itself. It is life before creation has taken shape. It is pure love. It is vast and nothing all at the same time. I can't even explain it. It is mind-blowingly beautiful. It's us before a judgment, before a measurement. Sid was saying, you know, the moment you think, it's a wave, and we become blinded by the waves. That's what this reality is. It's a flood of waves. But the waves have a source, and the source is invisible to the waves. It's only when the waves disappear and the water becomes still does the ocean get a moment to see itself without the distraction of its waves. And in that moment, an individual will realize the God self, the source self, who and what they truly are. And when they realize it, they won't have a fucking clue what it is all about. But they'll know the perfection of life. And they'll never forget it. For as long as they live, they will never forget it. And they will treasure it. And they will have their ups and their downs. And life will happen to them. They'll face challenge. They will face pain. They will not have found an anesthetic to life. They will have found life itself, and they will truly live. They will live a life that is free. And when I say free, I don't mean happy. I mean, they will live a life of freedom where they know they can't get it wrong. But it seems that when people discover this space, their desire for self-centeredness seems to disperse, and they just want to help people. Just want to help the next person find it. Or they just want to help another person not have to live in quite so much pain. And they may go into any form of profession, but it seems to be a helping profession, it seems to me. And that helping profession could be in any industry or none. Yeah, the singularity of life, love, is the ocean. Is the ocean of infinite potential from which all things are born, all things are made, and all things die back into, and all things are. Like a wave has its existence. My life, Dave's life, was born, is in existence as it sits right now, before it returns home. This is a holiday. This wave is a holiday. It's a temporary excursion, but I haven't gone anywhere. None of us have gone anywhere. Not to source, because there's nowhere to go, because there is only it. It can't go anywhere. Whatever life is, it's a conscious state. It's a creative state of beingness. It's infinitely potential filled. It's never been limited in any way other than it has the capacity to create. It can create the idea that it's stuck. It can create the idea that it's broken. It can create the idea that it's damaged. It can create the idea it's psychologically lost. It can create the idea it suffers from ADHD. It can create the idea it's bipolar. It can create all kinds of ideas. There is nothing but source, infinite frequency. This is why I was saying earlier on, in the future we'll start to understand frequency deeper. I believe it would be a good idea for humanity to start looking at frequency. It's what Tesla did, and look at what Tesla could do. He created anti-gravity devices and all kinds of things through utilizing frequency and mathematics and numbers. I always forget that saying by Tesla, but effectively I'm going to completely ruin it, but it's along the lines of you have to look before what was created. You see, when we look out of our eyes, we see many. You, me, them over there, them over there, them over there, all the trees, and then what's on the trees. Oh, let's have a look at what's on there. Let's just look what's on the tree. It's got birds in it. It's got woodlice. It's got little insects, pseudo scorpions. It's got caterpillars. It's got this, that, and the other. Fungus, mosses, lichens, oak apples, perhaps, or wasps. We see many. But the many is born of the same thing. The many is all born of the same space, one God. That's how I see it. I think to truly describe it, you don't speak. To truly describe it, you don't even open up your mouth. It's when our resonance matches the resonance of source. When for whatever reason our consciousness remembers itself or resonates at that frequency, whatever that is, I don't know. There's the experience of it. Many people find it through suffering. I'm not saying you have to suffer to find it, because you really don't. So don't think you have to go out and start suffering. Oh shit, I'm not suffering. I'm never gonna. But it's like the stone circle. It's always there. It's always there, just waiting to be rediscovered. Wasn't hiding. You just see it when you see it, for whatever reason. But people in suffering usually reach this point where they go, quit. I take my fucking hands off the wheel. I am done. I'm not I don't know what to do now. And the moment that happens, people have let go. They've let go of their control. As they say in AA, let go and let God. Step 11, 12 steps, have an enlightened experience. I love that. I love that. Just have one. Come on, step 11, you've done the other 10 steps. Next, you've got to have an enlightened experience. But step 12, help the next person. There it is. It's love. Nobody will ever find it in fear. Fear may be a catalyst to the awakening, but when you find it, there is no fear. Fear does not exist in the slightest. That's why that insight that came to me a few months ago, the further you go into suffering, the further into unreality you have entered, is so true. It's not even happiness. It feels like an ecstasy that's going to explode you. No, it's intense. But I've only seen as deep as I've seen. And as far as I can tell, it's shallow as hell. You can't measure infinity. But it's all an experience. It's all an experience. Everything is an experience. And that's what we've got to start to point our attention towards. The fact that everything is an experience, because when we start to understand that, when we start to see that, you start to see the singularity of life. You start to become aware of it. You get to become aware of it in this dimension. Right, okay, there's a clue. It's all an experience. What is suffering? It's an experience. What's meeting my son? It's an experience. What's playing with the dog? It's an experience. What's this call? It's an experience. What's having a conversation? It's an experience. It's going to work. It's an experience. Come back from work. It's an experience. Jumping in the shower after work. Experience. Oh, I'm going to go for an open water swim. Experience. Fell walk. Experience. I'm going to go for a jog. Experience. I'm going to go shopping. It's all experience. All experience. It's all experience. And every single one of us experiences our own experience of reality. All the waves on the ocean have the power of the ocean behind it. Fractal, holographic, as some people call it. All the information that lies in the picture lies in every single part of the picture. Like the stone circle, I'll say it again. It's never gone anywhere. You know, in actual fact, it doesn't even matter. You're already here. You have to be, otherwise you couldn't be here. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't really change anything. The only thing that changes is the perspective the observer observes life from. You see, people can think that they're damaged and broken, but they're not. That doesn't change. People can think that they're finite and when they die, they're just going to evaporate into nothing and they'll just be Nothing. They won't. Doesn't change anything. Truth can't be changed. You've got to see in the singular to find the truth. Yeah, because it doesn't change. Principles are the best description I've come across to this day. Sid Banks's conversation is the best conversation I've come to this day, and I've listened to many, many people talking about many, many things. But Sid's discovery about the nature of God, how the universe really is a thought. Every single one of us is a thought. We're an idea of the creator. Without the backing of the creator, there could be no existence. Full stop. We could not exist. Every single one of us is meant to be exactly where we are. There are not too many people on this planet. There's exactly the right amount of people on this planet. Everything is God. God experiencing itself. Consciousness experiencing itself. That's why it all works. That's why it all works. It's that simple. It's why the biome of the Earth works. It's why the planets don't spin out of orbit. Because it's not stupid. It's why evolution is so perfect. As change happens, so does the change for everything else around it, around that change. Why? Because it's intelligent. Because it's singular. It doesn't have to converse with a council or anything like that, or a house or a parliament. It just builds and creates. Guest speakers arrived. Where, Ange, does that muddy the water? Does that help in any way?
Yes, thank you. It does.
This
Sometimes I look at the things that he's wrote and it's just like way over my head sometimes. So I like it, just some things to be explained in ways that I understand.
Do you know what, love? If you think you understand it, you're further away from the truth. Not that you can be any further away from the truth in truth, but the more of the illusion we're looking at, the more of the illusion we have deluded ourselves into believing. So when you say you don't understand it, you're closer to the truth. I haven't got a fucking clue. I honestly, I say this most weeks, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I do not know what the hell I'm talking about. I love that. I love the mystery. I love the mystery of existence. I love what little I've gleaned into who and what we actually are. Thanks, Ange. I opened it up with just saying I lived here for 45 years, looked out that window and never knew there was a stone circle or standing stones in the field in front of our house.
Well, they're obscured, isn't it?
Yeah, they're obscured, but they've always been there. And I was saying, it's They've always been there. It's only when I've looked through a different state of being, I've started to become aware. And
Hidden in plain sight.
hidden in plain sight. That's what I've been talking about. Yeah. You got the same thing? I'll open it up and see what next question or something like that is.
Yeah, because I feel like it's weird
Yeah.
just coming in.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else want to say anything or share anything? Any questions, reflections, observations?
I know it's usually me, but I'm actually out of ammo this week. Like,
That's nice.
yeah. Just trying to like.
No, you don't have to find anything. It was just if anything was coming up for people. If not, let's just take
Nothing interesting anywhere.
let's just take a 10-minute break.
I
Let's
was
go
just
and
gonna
get
say
a cup of tea.
when's just.
Oh, when did you want to say something?
Oh.
No, let's take a 10-minute break. Go and get a cup of tea and come back.
I nearly brought you a cup of tea.
Did you? Nearly a wife. Welcome back. If you were on YouTube, what that looked like was a long pause of silence before we then decided to have a break. But in the meantime, we just had some wonderful conversation, but I hadn't pressed record. But yeah, welcome back, everyone.
I think on YouTube it will be we're having a break and then we're back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, you said long pause of
Yeah, there was a
silence.
long silence before. We
Oh.
said, right, we're having a break, and then we come back to that. Yeah. Where are we going? Where are we going, anyone? Anybody want to talk about anything?
Well, just then we were saying in the kitchen on the break how it's really easy to move away from the simplicity of the message and how we can overcomplicate it, but how there's something about keeping to, you know that your reality is created from within, and you know that everyone's reality is created from within. And then what's created can be really fun and interesting to look at, but it's always going to be a creation. And I think that's something that we get to explore and play with as human beings, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But different people love to create and explore different ways.
Excuse me one sec, it's going to go.
You're totally into your stone circles at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's so easy for us. Like when I first came across the principles, it was at the time the book The Secret had just been released. There's a film called What the Bleep had just been released. People that introduced me to it happened to be vegan. So it's so interesting because in those early days, I thought the principles was about, it was exactly the same as this, it had to be the same as The Secret, and the principles was about being vegan, and they also didn't drink, so it's about that. So I had all these add-ons to what I thought the principles was about. And I think I love how on community group we often have like amazing just discussions and we weave around, but always coming back to the space of I don't know, the unknown. I think that's the piece that I felt Sydney Banks really brought, was there's a way in which we are creating, and that's dependable and reliable, and we can measure it, we can see it, we can see how there's something that is happening that is always the same, but the consequence or the reality or the experience is going to change. And I think we so often spend time talking about experience and the creation because we're in creation. But I love you can keep pulling it back, because then you recognize we just make up stories, and like we fill in the blanks, and if we don't know something, we create it, we make it up. But there's something dependable about the principles in that we'll always be able to look there. We'll always be able to look to the moment of creation happening through us. and it's the same for every single being. And that's the unchangeable, you kind of, people call it the North Star, because there's always something to look to. So I get caught up in all kinds of ideas and theories and try and make sense of things. But then I feel like the principles is like the North Star of like, well, I don't know. I'm open to change my mind. I'm open to having a discussion with someone who sees it totally different. So the principles bring that fluidity and ability to be with other people without being so rigid in thinking that we know something. And I think sticking to the simplicity of the principles sometimes can be a challenge, because I remember I had a friend and colleague, Valda Monroe, and she said it's like you're in a room full of gold and jewels and diamonds, and it's all just like fantastic. But then there's this tiny wooden box, and then in this wooden box is actually the secret to life. And you open it and you realize, but everything else can kind of be a bit shiny and a bit tempting,
A bit better.
but it's like the simplicity of this small wooden box, that actually the answer lies within that. And it's like the simplicity of the answer lying within us. It's not out there. It's not in anything that we think. It's in the fact of us before any of the creation. So I don't know if that makes any sense. As Dave asked me on the break, is there anything you want to talk about? And I said, I'll try, but I had limited sleep last night. Lucia had a cough. So she was awake talking to me about her cough for about 3 hours. Yeah, so I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah, no, it did totally make sense, and I really appreciate it. I just want to read something I wrote. It was a while ago now. What was this year? It was the 8th of this year, 8th of January. And this kind of speaks a bit to what Andrew was asking earlier on as well. There's never been a concept drawn up about life that actually defines it. This means that to fully experience what life is in its most immaculate form, no intellect is required or capable. No one in the universe can dream up an image or definition, as these are always limited. So we can relax when we're trying to find ourselves, peace of mind, mental health, God. Relax into letting go. Taking it off our to-do list, as the intellect will never make it. And we will feel its presence within, as us, even stronger. There has never been a concept drawn up that actually defines life. You know, and this is why earlier on, Ange, when I said it's when you don't understand, you're closer to the truth. Because it's all the concepts that we dream up. It's really interesting having been around you. God knows what the hell you've seen happen with this movement of the three principles, which is just a conversation, which is just a concept, effectively. It's like the amount of people that I've seen come in and like say, oh, no, it's not the principles, it's this. And then they'll go off and with this wave of people will move over there and go, oh, is it over there? And they'll go and look over there. It's over here, everyone. It's over here. It's in this. It's in this teaching. It's in this person. It's in this. Follow this. And then there's this other load of people who stay back and go, oh, that's interesting. Then there'll be this wave of people that go over there and go, oh, it's over here. It's in this person. It's in that book. It's in that. It's in this. Like waves going out onto the beach, only to return back into the ocean. You know, but that's what the intellect will do. The intellect will take us on mad searches. In fact, it's only the intellect that's actually searching. It's searching for its source. But what is the intellect? It's creation. So it can't see the source because it's too late. It's already been created, the ego. The ego can't, the ego doesn't know source exists. That's why it's so afraid. That's why it's afraid of everything, because it believes it's finite, which the ego is, but the ego is just a ball of thoughts. It's just a creation. It's a creation that the human being, because it is so frigging powerful, it created an alter ego. It created a story that it wanted to use as its expression of itself in order to interact with this world and to keep itself safe. It invented its own entity. It created a whole entity. But the thing is, that entity cannot see its origin because it's creation. It's too late. It just keeps on getting added to and added to and added to and added to and getting bigger and bigger and bigger until at some point, the individual who created the entity, created the ego, sees beyond it, looks past it. Then it starts to shrink, starts to get smaller, it starts to get smaller, it starts to get smaller, it starts to get smaller. It won't disappear, but massive swathes of story starts to fall away. Yeah, this idea of even searching. I remember saying, well, Buddha meditated his way to enlightenment, and you went, no, he didn't.
Well, the story goes is when he gave up trying to find enlightenment, if he found it.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to know that, I don't know, we've lived in a world that believed we are victims of circumstance, the past, ourselves, and we've been told that we are defined by our past. We've been told that, we are a product of our past, we're a product of our upbringing. And like, I can see already, like with Lucia, of course, she's going to take on ideas of ours, she picks up things that we say. But I think what's pointed to is the freedom that exists within every single human being to recreate in any moment, because we're not bound by anything. But we've bought into this idea of a past, this idea of being affected. We've lived as very affected people. And it's like that one misunderstanding creates all of the chaos that we see around us. But when we settle down and start to see that the freedom of mind always exists within us, the freedom to feel love, joy, peace, gratitude exists within us. And I think that's something that for me was huge, because I thought those feelings were dependent on certain things outside of me, certain people being a certain way. There were certain things that happened in my life that I didn't feel willing or able to forgive. And through this understanding, you start to notice and see, we often find a feeling of forgiveness for people, because we start to see, if we live in that misunderstanding and it creates havoc in our lives, if other people live in that misunderstanding, and that creates havoc in their lives, we're going to have havoc in the world. And I think to be able to see that every human being is living in their own reality and making sense of the world given their belief system that's generally invisible to us, you're like, wow, no wonder we have the world that we see today. No wonder we have conflict and horrendous stuff happens in this world. But more and more people are waking up to that space within them and finding forgiveness, finding love, finding compassion, all the things that we know that are wonderful attributes. And it's like, then our world starts to change, and then that ripples out to our family and our friends. And I think that's, again, the simplicity of, wow, like, we don't have to change out there. We can't change our past. We've got no idea about the future, but right now, every single feeling and depth of feeling is available to us now. Like we can fall into a feeling of gratitude about something that's just so overwhelming, we feel like crying in a moment. We could fall into a memory of something so awful that's happened in our life and be in tears in a moment. Like that's the power of the mind now. And I think I used to spend hours ruminating and trying to figure things out and trying to kind of see where I went wrong. And that seemed like a very good thing to do. And then when I came across this understanding, I thought, well, no wonder I've spent 10 years in therapy and I've got more and more miserable. Life's felt more and more difficult because I've just been focusing on my problems. And it was like someone gave me the permission to go, oh, you don't actually have to look there. Like come back to this moment now and start to recognize what is within you before the story. What's within you that's always been there? What was there when I was born, when I was 5, when I was 10, when I was 15, when I was 20, all the way up to nearly 43? What's been there witnessing all of the changes in experience and character and likes and dislikes, and what is that space? And I think we get more interested in that than everything else. We might visit it, but it becomes less appealing. Like I know where it takes me. When?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It just reminded me of something that I met. I went to see George and Linda Pransky a few years ago in wherever they live for a practitioner course. And on the heels of that, I came back and I'm going to be honest, I don't know that if I wrote this myself, but Facebook reminded me of it the other day. And whether I wrote it myself or somebody else wrote it and I just didn't give them attribution, I don't know, but it's still wise. When we speak, we can talk about your life and your laundry list. We can talk about your thinking and your feelings about your laundry list. We can talk about being a human being and the truth of how we're designed. In my experience, the value is in that last bit. And I just thought that was the bee's knees, you know? Like we do get so caught up in my problems, your problems, what happened to me, when it happened, you know, what the weather was like, why, the world is out to get me, how bad my president is. We get caught up in that crap. But there's so much more on offer, as my friends in the United Kingdom say. So much more on offer than that. Yeah.
That's right.
Was we listened to a talk the other day that my sister had sent, and it was talking about coherence, and it kind of reminded me when you were talking about frequency. It was just saying when we sort of shift away from the noise of our head and our thinking and shift into our heart is the way they describe it. Is that we become coherent, and the frequency of us that can be measured is one that then resonates with nature.
Nature. Yeah, the Earth's 8 hertz, isn't it?
And like you always say, we are nature.
Mm.
But we've started living like in such a different frequency that we've felt so separate and isolated and yes, sped up. And there's something about slowing down to, like, one of the early books was called Slowing Down to the Speed of Life by Joe Bailey. And I loved that because I felt like, and I still do it, but suddenly I got to slow down and I saw the village I lived in.
Yeah.
I saw the thatch roofs that had, some of them have animals. I think, did you see them when you came to see my mum and dad?
Yeah, yes.
And I'm like, these have been here. And like the colours were just incredible. And I was like, I've grown up in this village and I've not seen this village because I've just been so in my own mind. And I think when we start to slow down, there is so much beauty around us.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid being like, a sunset, or look at the colour of the autumn leaves, and my parents would try and draw my attention to it. So even if I liked it, I'd be like, But then suddenly it was like, wow,
Yeah,
look what's
seriously.
been created, look what's around us.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're in South Africa, seeing the colours and the change of the light on the water.
That's phenomenal, wasn't it?
And then Table Mountain, how that just changes with the cloud and the light and
just constant everything is in a constant state of movement, isn't it?
Yeah.
That,
Mhm.
that's
There's a great song by Nancy, I'm not going to remember her last name now, Nancy Griffith, American folk singer. And one of the great lines, I don't think she wrote the song, but it was, I never saw the East Coast until I moved to the West.
yeah, that's nice.
It's just, yeah, it's lovely line, yeah.
Yeah, that is a nice line.
Have you ever thought in community group of taking like the missing link and reading it, a little bit, a little chunk and talking about it, and then
No.
that'd be kind of a cool,
Yeah,
or I like that book by Joe Bailey. I've been wanting to read that one, but that might be a fun thing to think about in a community group is read a little and talk on what we just read.
yeah, totally, totally. I think
Mm.
we generally like it just to be free for all.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, no,
Well, it
totally.
could be a free for all with a book.
Let's go for it. Let's do it today. Why not? Why not? It's nice. It gives us a direction to start a conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think sometimes we'd maybe have a quote or a topic, or we'd write a blurb. Like when we used to do community group in person, you'd have generally written like a blurb that would have taken
Yeah.
you a while, and we'd have a heading and a topic. And I think doing it online, it ended up just being a bit more free for all, last minute.
Yeah, it's
Probably
not a
not left with
complaint.
it.
It's
Certainly
just sort
no,
of
is
like,
it?
oh, I'm intrigued with the thought of reading the Joe Bailey book together, like, all of it. But that it's not a complaint about how it's run. I'm just saying that's kind of a cool
We didn't
notion. That's all.
but no, it's a cool idea, love. And it's nice. It's nice, to have that direction to take a conversation in. Some of those things are, it's like you just said, the magic lies in the latter part of your story. The magic lies in it lies in the orientation of our consciousness in the direction of an inward awareness. I was just reading, I was trying to find a quote that I wrote a wee while ago. I found it and then I flicked off and I can't find it again. But then I just found this little statement I wrote at some point. And when I look at the times, they're generally all around like 20 to 11. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's a good time to sit down and get quiet. But they all seem to be around that time
In the morning or in the evening.
in the morning. But it just said all realities and experience are an interior state of being. And I thought, yeah, I like that. I don't remember writing it, but I have done at some point. But all reality, all experiences are an interior state of being. And this is really in my mind, in my experience, when the mystics have said, look within, they're repointing us, they're reorientating us back into the source of our experience of life. We've been so mesmerized by our experiences. We've been so mesmerized by the comings and goings, the dramas, the breakups, the falling in loves, the new job, they're getting sacked, they're having a house, they're not having a house, the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all of it. We've been so mesmerized by life's goings on that we forgot to check ourselves out and discover, one, where is it all taking place? Is my reality taking place outside of myself? Or is my reality an interior state of being? I don't know. It would stand to logical reason to me that if my reality was taking place outside of myself, Jenny would say it. We would never disagree on anything, and we'd both be all over stone circles at the moment. Um, or baby Raya clothes. Yeah.
You don't disagree
Totally.
on anything now, right? You
No.
never disagree on anything now, right? So,
No, no, no. I think I said it, was it last week? Like, no, we're so spiritual that,
yeah.
you know, yeah, no, yeah. Yeah. But it is such like you said, the simplicity is such a simple thing.
That's it's kind of
And,
odd.
and even when you found it, it can be really compelling to go searching outside.
I was just going to say, when you were talking about hidden in plain sight, there's a book my parents used to read me called Not Now Bernard when I was a kid. And it's about a little boy who's always trying to get his mum and dad's attention. They're like, not now, Bernard, not now,
We could
Bernard,
read that on community group.
not now, Bernard. And then he's trying to tell them there's a monster in the garden and eventually gets eaten by this monster, but they don't notice. So it's like, not now, Bernard, not now, Bernard. And
The
he
monster
sits,
bites his dad's leg, doesn't he?
yeah, and he's like, Bernard, don't bite my leg.
Not now, Bernard.
And then he sits down and he gets given the food from the mum, and she's like, still not noticed. The little boy's gone. It's just a little monster. And then he goes to bed. And then when I've read it to Lucia, I kind of saw the stories trying to point to something. And it's like when you continually say, not now, not now, not now to your children, by the end of the day, you've got a little monster. And then they're kind of running havoc. I was like, wow, I had that book read to me so many times. And then I've read it to my nieces and nephews who are like now 13 and
Big monsters.
17 and 20. But it's such a cool little book. And I see it with Lucia, like she does need a lot of focused attention on her. Otherwise she goes looking for attention. She starts doing things deliberately to get attention. And I think I don't know why it just made me laugh. Just the fact I'd read it so many times, I'm like, "Oh, it's actually a really cool message in that book."
That's it. You can see anything different. We can see anything. We can see everything is up for grabs. Everything is up for grabs. You know, and to me, this is one of the beautiful gifts of discovery. It's like when you know that everything is up for grabs. One, you don't hold on to. You don't kind of have trust or faith in a solidity of reality, of an objectivity of reality. You suddenly start to become aware of the fluidity of reality. Like we said earlier on, you know, everything is in a constant state of change. The trees now are starting to bud. The birds are pairing up. You know, all kinds of things are taking place in the northern hemisphere, and
Snowdrops.
yeah, snowdrops have come through and stuff like that. Everything's in a constant. I haven't got a clue. The reason why I've always liked looking out of that kitchen window where I can see the stone circle from every single morning is because, oh, what's the weather? How's it looking today? How does it look today? Because I know when I wake up and I walk to that window, it's going to look different to what it's going to be an entirely unique vista. Everything is in a constant state of change. You know, nature doesn't hold itself into one state of being. Nature flows. Nature isn't afraid to go with its own flow. But some human beings become very afraid to go with their own flow, and they hold themselves prisoner. They hold themselves stuck with a familiar, even if that familiar is terrifying. Better the devil you know. And I say this often. I've been that man. You know, I was almost afraid to give up depression because I didn't know who I would be without it. But it turns out you don't evaporate. You don't just spontaneously combust. You just get to experience life without it, and it's actually beautiful. You know, life without the bullshit stories that we've created for ourselves, these identities, these, oh, I'm a socially anxious person. Oh, what was yours?
What?
What was your thing that you created that you woke up out of?
Shy. Wasn't she shy?
Yeah, when you saw your ego.
Well, yeah, social anxiety, shyness. I'm not good enough. No one likes me.
Yeah. But I remember you saying, I didn't even think I had an ego.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I had no ego at all. Because I thought ego was the big I am. And I knew I definitely wasn't that. But then when I came across the principles, I was like, my ego is massive. Because it's all the stories and beliefs I have about myself and the world. And yeah, that's quite humbling.
Yeah. But then it doesn't matter either. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's a dance.
I love that. I don't know if you watched it. Me and Lisa watched a documentary on Netflix, and it was about twin brothers.
Three brothers.
Twin brothers.
Oh, that's triplets, isn't it? Sorry.
And one of them was in a biking accident and lost his memory, and he never regained his memory. But his twin brother was just teaching him about his life and telling him about everything, and he had this beautiful then relationship with his parents, and he had this lovely life. And then when his parents passed away, they were cleaning, he went to clean out the house, and then he found all this stuff, and he realized his brother had lied to him, that actually they'd had a horrendous upbringing and loads of awful abuse had happened. And it was really sad. I think he cut his brother out. He was so angry. But the thing that fascinated me was that his brother had thought, I have to live with this awful memory of what's happened. He's now been given an opportunity to completely recreate the past and have a different relationship, because he's thinking about his parents, were that he had a wonderful relationship with him and he had a good childhood. That's the life he then led with them and experienced until they passed away. So it was a really it's on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a fascinating documentary, because I was like, wow. So if your memory was completely wiped, you've got no story. You've got no, when you look at somebody, there's no story there. So it doesn't matter if they're your parent who treated you well or not well.
There's no ego.
Without the story, they're just another person that you take at face value, and you're told you've had a great childhood. And yes, it just really blew my mind about the power of the mind.
I missed a step. Was it about twins?
Yeah, so one of them lost their memory, and the other one
Yes.
told him about their
Yeah. I'm
childhood.
going to have to remember the name of it too, but I think they're British, aren't they? I
Can't
think
remember.
the twin men were British. So I don't know if that's the one I remember. And they both had a horrific, like a very abusive childhood with their mother.
Don't know. I've never
And
seen
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and
fascinating.
the one twin had some sort of a head injury, and the other twin said when he woke up and said, "Oh, who am I? What am I? Whatever." They would look at pictures, and the twin that was well or not hadn't had a head injury said, "Oh, we had a beautiful childhood. We used to go on lovely holidays." And the other guy was like, "Oh, great," And so, because he didn't want him to relive the pain a second time, he said, "You're lucky. You get to erase the fact that you had a terrible childhood. I'll carry that." But yeah, it was very interesting. I saw that too. It was fascinating.
That's interesting. I'll have to
Yeah.
watch that.
It was very sad though, because he
Yeah.
cut his brother out because he was so angry at him for lying. And I just thought, wow, his
Yeah.
brother really was trying to give him a gift of
Right, right.
Yeah.
having a
And the other brother felt the pain of knowing everything too. Like it was hard on both of them after the lie came out. Because the brother that lied was like he had to carry the burden of the fact that they were abused children all on his own and try to remember to lie. And then the brother that found out that he was lying all the time felt, like you lied to me. So it didn't end up well, the lying, but I thought the desire was dear to spare him from living
Yeah.
through it again.
Sounds very kind.
Yeah. Yeah, kind. Yeah.
I think that's why in some ways the kindness within the principles is that we can't, most of us are not going to have our memory erased, but you can look back with different eyes. And I know that my past looks different given my new state of consciousness.
History rewrites itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like the characters look different. So I think that's the gift. Like we can't actually change the physical things that happen. They've happened, it's gone. But there's the opportunity of being open to seeing things differently and remembering things in a completely new way. So I think that's the gift.
And what a gift. What a gift that is, though, isn't it? It's like, I'll go back to that Sid Banks, one of my favorite Sid Banks quotes. You've been given the gift to come into this world and create whatever reality you so wish. There is no greater gift in the universe than that. That's really it. People think they're weak, people think they're incapable, people think they're this, that, and the other, and but they're creating that experience. Right? The magnitude of that point, they get to create that experience. Who are they? What are they? What are we? Got school to learn it. Didn't never need teaching how to create experience. What we get pointed in the direction of is the fact we're actually doing it. It took somebody to come along and go, hey, Dave, all this happiness and grief and whatever happiness you're searching for and the grief you're experiencing, you think it's all over there? No, Dave, you're 180 degrees looking in the wrong direction. But other than that, we never needed teaching. We just exist and create. All experience, all realities are an interior state of being. And they are like the outside world. They change. Leave them alone and they change. Focus your attention on it. You will continue to create it and amplify it. But that's what the gift of consciousness does. It amplifies whatever it looks at, whatever it holds in its attention. So if people come to this conversation with something pinpointed, something like, oh, I've got a relationship problem, will you speak about this? And it's like, that's not where the magic lies. When, God bless, love, so much love, and thanks for coming, love. Thanks for your contributions. Love you. As long as the individual's holding on to that, they won't see beyond it. They won't realize the magnitude of the message. And that's why, this is always an invitation just to let go. It's an invitation to come to this group, to be listening to this group. Quite often, I think it's easier when you're on catch up as well. Those that listening on catch up on YouTube, on catch up, and they're not actually part of the conversation, not here live. I'd love it if you could come live, it'd be wonderful. But there's something when you're just listening, when there's no interaction, you're not conversing with somebody else, you're just getting to listen. There's a relaxation that takes place. The mind has the capacity then just to wander. And people, we've been taught that a wandering mind is a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing. It's when people wander, they stumble across amazing places. When people wander, they discover places that whoa, I was just walking this one day and I found this space, I found this cave, I found this, that, or the other. I stumbled across this hoard or whatever it be. It's just wandering. Does it? It's out the top. But our minds, when we're listening, when we're just listening, our minds can wander and they can just the aperture of consciousness has gone from narrow, looking at a problem, to expansive, just letting the mind wander and relaxing. And it's in the massive, it's in the expansion that we start to become more in alignment with our true self, our God self, our source self. You see the kid zoning out at school, and she's always been bollocked for it, like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay. What a word. Pay attention. Give me your attention. Give me your consciousness. We've been very, very much taught to narrow down our consciousness and focus on the details. But the devil's in the details. It's the domain of hell. And it's in the expansion Why do people meditate? They meditate to allow their mind to get quiet so the expansion takes place, so they have access to new information that can just wander in. Nobody who teaches meditation would ever teach you to focus on all the problems that you believe you have. Yeah, this is just an invitation. Each week it's an invitation to come and just sit and listen, ask questions. Let's take the conversation in all kinds of directions. I love it. But it's also an invitation just to relax. All right, just call it a night. Thank you, everyone. Just going to say again, if you want to make a donation via PayPal, it can be it's at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Get in touch with us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And yeah, www.freedomthinking.co.uk. Get in touch. We love to hear from people. And please like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. God bless everyone. Thank you for coming.
Night.
Night, love.